Welcome back to our wetland adventures. Today we are at the Apex Nature Center, which is in Apex, North Carolina, and again I'm Mark from the Swamp School. We want to go over another constructed wetland project. We looked at one last week, and this is one that actually is a wetland, so we're going to take a look at that. So we're going to flip the camera around and let you take a look at the site. Okay, to start, we're just going to do a quick pan across the whole site here. You'll see it's a pretty nice sized wetland. It is a stormwater management device similar to the one we looked at in the other site, but this one is actually built out, so it's kind of cool. So like all storm management sites, the site starts with a forebay, and as you can see, this forebay is a nice little wing wall, and this is the drainage from up here on the hill, and you'll see it's coming off the parking lot. There's actually some stuff that's intercepting it as it comes along, which we'll take a look at. But basically it comes down to here, and then there is also, I'll just zip over to here, another smaller wing wall is coming from another part of the parking lot over here. And this whole thing ends up in a nice little kind of forebay, and essentially what it's doing is it is looking at water quality here is being improved. You can see we've got a lot of lizard tail growing on the edge here, and the lizard tail is helping with a lot of the nitrogen and phosphorus that's coming off the parking lot. And then there is actually a barrier, and when we looked at that Chick-fil-A site last time, there was a rock wall thing. Well, that presumably would be what was in here. So this is meant to be a barrier, and it's acting to slow the water down into this forebay, and you get some retention here. So this whole thing is actually a retention pond, but this does have the characteristics of a kind of classic retention basin with a lot of wetland plants in it. And then as we walk across here, we'll see, we'll go over to the area here where we have, to give you kind of a high level view, you'll see there's actually an area that we have to get up and over this area, and what's happening is the water is actually passing through it. And you can see due to the high energy, you can see there's like a low spot where the water has kind of pushed through the lizard tail. And we've got some soft rush in here, we've got some rose mallow, some pickerel weed, got a whole bunch of stuff in here coming up. And then this is the main body, which is the next level of treatment, and it is working through its way down through here, and the water would work, ultimately going to a trash rack on the other side. So we'll take a look at that. I'm just going to cut it here for a second. Okay, so now we're over at the trash rack, and you can see we got a little bit of dribble coming in here from the pond. So it's right at the top of where this should be basically the maximum fill on a kind of a normal bed. So you've got a little low flow channel there. You can see the little dribbling going on down there from there down to this cistern that basically is catching all the other water. Now, this is also a water control structure, so anything, let's see if we can get the height here, anything about somewhere around 6 to 8 inches above the water surface elevation is going to end up in this trash rack, and essentially we're going to be taking care of that water elevation. So it's meant to be much higher, but it's about at the level of this pickerel weed here. So we've got a fair amount of pickerel weed, so you've got a fair amount of water coming in. And then what does this do once it gets through? So let's go back to the trash rack here, and you can see there's a valve in here and a pipe, and the valve is designed so you can drain the whole site if you needed to. So it's going to take it right to the base, and I'm actually standing right where the pipe is, but there's a pipe in here, and that's where the water is draining to, and you can see a little bit of flow going through there. So that's essentially where this is going from. Now the question is, where does it go from here? So basically it's running through this way, and then what we're going to do is kind of follow its path underground, or under here, go across, and then you can see this nice outlet structure here, which is where the water ends up. They actually put another water control structure in here, so there's a little bit of energy attenuation. That's what's kind of cool about this. So there's a low flow channel on this, which you can see the 4 little cuts in here. There's the water coming in, and the 4 little cuts coming in, and then there's this higher energy event here where basically there's a weir set, and then essentially it hits this riprap, which has got lots of sedges in here and some escape plants from the pond. So we've got a bunch of sedges in here, actually a couple different species, as well as the lizard tail and some remnant pickerelweed and a few things like that. So that's that aspect of it. Now we're going to take a look at another aspect of it. Here is the emergency spillway, and from this we get a basically a 100-year flood, or it's got to be the 100-year. I don't think it's anything less than that. But basically this is a pretty high event. And they put this nice little wooden bridge over here so we don't have to trip on the rocks when we're trying to cross it, which is nice. It's also handy for the joggers and I think some people with wheelchairs and bicycles. So it makes it accessible, which is very nice. And then on the other side is, again, this is all, it looks like #2 stone, big stuff for high energy events. And it doesn't look like it's ever actually been used. There's a little bit of a movement of stone here. You might want to come in and fix that. It looks like some of the stones have just kind of rolled away. I don't think washed away, more so than rolled away. There's a little bit of sand in here. You can see a little bit of filter stone in here, and this is probably from the original placement. I'll just kind of walk along here, and this is essentially the, I don't know, about 30-40 feet wide apron that is going to take care of the emergency events that we might run into. You can see on this side we have the same thing over here. So we've got zoomed over here, and it's a nice little walkway. Got some informational kiosks, so it can tell you all about this site. So it's a pretty decent site. I would say a little more than half an acre of area that's being treated, and it's pretty much taking the bulk of the runoff from the pond. So that wraps up this review of the Apex Nature Parks constructed wetland for wastewater treatment. It's a pretty cool little setup. They actually added a lot of interesting features, including that forebay and actually kind of a tail end for basically water control structure. It's really designed to keep the erosion issues down, and that's a really neat feature. But it is a great example of how you can use innovative stormwater management techniques with constructed wetlands to make wetlands serve a better water quality function and hopefully improve the water quality in the community. So with that, this is Mark again. I wish you well, and we'll see you next time.